Do you want to discover more joy, peace, and freedom with food, exercise, and your body? Here we bring a compassionate, holistic, and sustainable approach to fitness so you can fully enjoy the life you want and express your unique self with the world. I'm Michelle Roscoe, and I want to help you find fitness freedom. I'm so glad you're here. Howdy, y'all. I don't know why I started that way, but it felt right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's podcast of Fitness Freedom. I want to share with you, this is something I've been thinking about. I'm excited to share some differences I've noticed running now than before, and I'm going to give you some background. So, first of all, do you like running? Some people love it. Some people hate it. It's an acquired taste for some. And I've been on different sides of the coin, and that's exactly what I'm going to be sharing with you. So earlier this year, was it the end of last year, my girlfriend and I decided we wanted to make a challenge for ourselves together, a goal to work towards, something that would push us, that we could work on together. And so we signed up for a half marathon. At the time, I think it was early this year. We signed up for a half marathon at the end of the summer. It's August 10th, and we decided we would work towards it, build up our mileage, start running more, and it would be a fun challenge. That was several months ago. Now it's a month away. While I'm recording this, the race is almost exactly a month away, and it's been a good challenge, a good growth experience. And I've noticed some differences from when I ran before to now, and I want to share them with you. And I also want to curiously, genuinely want to know what you think, how you feel, what your experience is. So I'm going to save some questions for the end. So please stick around. I'd love to hear your answers on Instagram, email. Yeah, please do share. So when I was about 16, when my eating disorder started to develop, we had a treadmill in our house. It was in this little annex of our house where my mom would store things and where the washing machine and dryer were. And I would run there, and it was like a punishment. It was like to burn calories. At the time, I believed in those numbers that you see on the treadmill. So I can still kind of remember the little buttons. And I remember feeling cold. I remember it feeling clangy and empty. And yeah, I would run, and I would run at least 3 times a week around that time. I would jump rope. And then later on, I took running with me to college. I would wake up at 5 a.m. I still wake up early. I wake up really early to run before my 7:30 a.m. classes. And when I went to Africa for a summer, I decided, why don't I do this every day? I just had the idea. I could do this every day. So while I was there over the summer, I started running every single day. I wanted to see how many, I guess, my streak, see how much running I could get per day. I think I had read about people who had high running streaks, probably in Runner's World, people who run every day without stopping. And that sounded appealing to me at the time. So I ran every day. I remember running in the sand on the beach. And that's a lot of conditioning for your legs. I remember coming back from that trip, and 10 miles felt easy because I had been running a lot more. This is not to say that this was all healthy behavior. I'm not condoning this or endorsing this. I'm just sharing my experience with you. But as I continued doing this, I started getting more injuries. Like I have my right ankle. Sometimes it still once in a while gets sprained. It started around then when I would just run on injured ankles and not give myself proper recovery because I had to get my runs in. So I started having recurring pains in my ankle and my knees. I wasn't really doing any strength training at that time or cross training. I was obsessed with not missing days. So my rule was 3 miles every day. And sometimes I would go longer, sometimes I would go shorter. And it felt good when I did it. I'm not going to deny that it felt good, especially those early morning runs when I felt like I was awake before everyone else was awake, and it was my time to myself before a long and busy day. I pushed myself a lot in college to get good grades, to be involved with lots of ministries, we called them. But it was obsessive in that if I didn't have that run, I wouldn't feel good. Like I needed to run in order to feel good. And maybe you can relate, as I know this is not uncommon, where you feel like if you don't get your workout in, something feels off, or you're not okay, or if you don't get a certain distance in your biking or you're running, or if you don't get a certain amount of reps, you feel like something bad will happen or you won't be okay. So it was freeing in a way. I would say that when I would run, I would be like, I feel free. It feels so good. But it was not really free, because if you need, like I talked about in the previous episode, if you need something outside of you in order to feel free, that's not true freedom. So I took a while. I stopped eventually. So to finish the story, I was experiencing these injuries. I went to England. That was like the peak of my injuries. I was running hills when I was in school in England, and kept getting my ankle sprained for whatever reason. And I would run limping sometimes. I recall that. And I would bike sometimes. But after that, after my grad school, that summer, I was like, you know what? I'm kind of done. I kind of want to do something else. And that's when I got into more body weight training and really into other kinds of exercises. And I thought it was really cool that didn't have to just run outside. I could do exercises inside, and I still think that's pretty awesome. So I took a break from running for a long time, and I would run here and there. Sometimes if it felt good, I would run for a short time, just see how I was doing, or in workouts, in group workouts, whatever. I would run sometimes, but it wasn't something that I made as a big part of my exercise routine. And for good reason. I was afraid of going back into that place. So being brave enough, this was a big challenge for me, not just physically to do the half marathon, but also mentally. Like, how would it feel to run long distances again? Would I go back into that unhealthy mindset? Would it feel obsessive again? And I want to share with you what I've observed having taken a break, so to speak, from running for over 10 years, especially long distance running. And to be fair, like some people do full marathons and wildly long distances, and I'm not at that point. For some people, a half marathon is so long. It's for some people, it's so short. It's all relative. But this is what I've been learning after being away from running for so long, working through so many issues of my eating disorder, being a fitness coach where I know so much more about how the human body works, about how training works. There's so much more to learn, but I know a lot more than I did when I was in my teens and early 20s. So this is what I've observed, and I want to share them with you in case they might be helpful, and I want to ask you some questions at the end. So one thing that I've really prioritized without being so gung-ho about running, like, oh, I love it, I got to do it, I got to get this distance in, is actually my attitude towards it is like, okay, I guess we got to do this, let's go do this. And before, I didn't understand when people felt that way, and now I do. So one thing that I've really prioritized and realized is how important recovery is in between runs. So definitely not running every single day, trying to find that balance. My goal is not to see how many times I can run it in a day, but to make sure that I get enough recovery in the week between my runs. Like, that's my goal. That's what I prioritize. So how important recovery is, and not just stretching, but just not running in between. So typically I'll run every other day or just a few times a week, even with this training. The other thing is taking it at my own pace. Before, it was all about numbers and hitting goals, and that mindset still creeps up. And that's why it's really lovely to do my runs with my girlfriend and practice more gentleness. I'm not always so good at it, but practicing that has been really helpful. Taking it at my own pace. So some days I know that when I wake up, I slept well and I'm feeling on top of the world. I have good energy. I ate well the day before and I'm feeling good. And to know that I can give a little bit more on those days, and to also understand when I'm feeling tired, if I didn't sleep well, or if I was working a lot, or if I didn't have a lot of fuel or water, to take it easier and to even give myself full permission to stop. So taking it at my own pace more and not being so obsessed with hitting specific numbers. I mean, why do we need to hit specific numbers anyway? I know it's fun to have goals, but when those goals overtake our brains, it's not really helpful or healthy. So just taking things at my own pace, learning to slow down a little bit, that has been helpful. The other thing that I've realized is that I get better at what I practice. And this was a mindset I took with me in the beginning. It's true. There's a principle in exercise called SAID, specific adaptations to impose demands. So basically you get better at what you practice. If you feel like you're not good at running, it's probably because you haven't done a lot of running, or you're training in a specific way that makes you quote unquote bad at running, which I don't even know what that means. Maybe you mean you're slow. But if you want to get better at something, you practice it. And it doesn't mean that you could be, Usain Bolt, or doesn't mean that, we stay within realistic confines. But you get better at what you practice. So if you want to get better at running, you run more. And I knew when I started this run that I wasn't great at long distance runs because I hadn't done them in a long time. At one point I was. It felt easy to do 10 miles and I could do a half marathon distance. But yeah, I know I get better at what I practice. So if I want to get better at running, I don't beat myself up if I have a hard time, or if it's difficult to run 3 miles or 5 miles or 7. I just say, okay, I just haven't practiced this. And if I want to get better, I practice. And it's all a matter of what you want to get good at and why, and how that ties into the big picture of your health. Okay. And then I already said how important recovery is in between runs. But also, I want to talk about the other side, the other parts of recovery beyond just not running and taking days off from running. Taking time for recovery is something else that I've been practicing, like stretching. I've been noticing, okay, which muscles am I using? Which ones are tight? If I'm going to run a longer distance, I really need to make sure that I stretch enough so that my muscles are loose, so I'm not causing imbalance in my body or creating any new injuries by getting tight hamstrings or holding too much tension in my traps. Those are some things that I've been noticing for myself. Also sleeping, I noticed that the more longer distances I run, especially in the heat, as it's summer here and it's been pretty hot and the temperatures have been pretty high, which I love. I'd rather do that than run in the cold, but my body needs more sleep. So just noticing those differences and giving myself more sleep. I've also noticed my hunger levels have gone up. There's actually a study that was done that running does amp up your hunger levels, and often people this is a side note, but a lot of the times people use running as a weight loss tool. I think it's one of the worst weight loss exercises you could do if that's your goal. Weight loss is neither good nor bad. It's all a matter of why you're doing it and how you're doing it. That makes it helpful or unhelpful for you. But if you are trying to lose weight, running, I would not recommend as your main go-to exercise. One, it revs up your appetite. And a lot of the times we have the mindset like, oh, I just went on a long run, so I get to eat a lot. I burned 800 calories. That means I get to eat 800. And that's also an unhealthy. We don't want to think of that because that can lead to disordered eating behaviors. But I would recommend walking as a much better alternative. You're bringing your heart rate up, you're getting the cardiovascular fitness, but you're not putting your body in that state where just your hunger hormones go higher. I would also recommend walking and strength training to build that muscle if long-term weight loss is one of your goals. But that's the side note. Back to the recovery and the next point. So in terms of eating, I've been focusing more on my hunger levels and my fuel needs. And I've been noticing that I generally crave carbs a little bit more than I usually do. I'm not a big carb person. I would rather have a salad and meat for meals most of the time. Not to say that carbs are bad. I'm not a carb, bread doesn't appeal to me very much. rice is okay, it's pretty good. But yeah, I've been noticing that I've been craving carbs more, and instead of shaming myself or being like, no, you can't eat, you gotta use running as this weight loss tool, I just eat more. I just eat a little bit more. I've been noticing that. So taking care of my body basically, and noticing what it needs and giving it to my body. Those are the positive things that I've been learning, like recovery, taking it at my own pace, recognizing that I get better at what I practice, giving myself what I need as my body's needs change as I've been running more in a way that I did not before. Just to contrast, before when I was running on I would run on injuries. I wouldn't care about recovery. Cross training or strength training was not as important. Flexibility and mobility was not important. It was all about burning calories, getting my runs in, using it as a weight loss tool, making sure that if I ate too much that I would run more, all of that bargaining that is just so unhealthy and unhelpful. And yes, there were times that I enjoyed it and aspects that I enjoyed, but overall it was not a healthy approach to running, not helpful. But this is the more negative things that I'm noticing now as I'm doing running, and I want to share them with you, and then I have the questions, okay? So I've been noticing, especially with the really long runs, like, up to 6, 7, that's all right. Like an hour is a good, nice long run. But beyond an hour of running, I don't enjoy it as much. So like 10 miles, 11 miles, like I don't want to, maybe if I were really into something that I was listening to, or I really enjoyed the environment, yeah, I could find some enjoyment in that. But I don't enjoy running as much as I used to. And I think I enjoyed it because it was like, I'm a runner and this is my thing. And I get it done every single day. So I had a lot of identity attached to it, which of course, your identity determines your actions. But now I don't see myself as a runner, and I kind of have a little bit of maybe distance between myself and that running identity, just because I know how harmful it was for me in my past. So I just don't enjoy it as much. That's one thing I've observing. Another thing that's kind of more negative is I have noticed that bargaining mindset coming up a little bit more, where I think, all right, so I run longer. That means I get to eat more. And it's true in a way where you have fuel, but food shouldn't be a reward for exercise, and exercise shouldn't be a punishment for eating. And I've worked a lot on my mindset to get away from that, where I think that's one reason I enjoy strength training too, and things that don't burn a lot of calories, so to speak, is because it's more like, this is good for my body, and I'm pouring into my body and doing something good for it, and it's not tied to the food aspect as much. And running and cardiovascular activities can more easily, I think, become that bargaining mindset of, okay, I run this much, so I eat this much, or the idea of giving yourself permission to eat because you worked out hard. And you never need permission to eat. I'm telling myself this, I'm telling you this. You never need permission to eat. Your body needs fuel just existing. If you were, a vegetable that's a negative term, but if you could not do anything and you were just sitting on your couch, you would still need food. You would still need fuel. Your body needs fuel to just run its basic systems. So yes, we do need more fuel the more we train, but that can easily become, all right, now I earned this, or I deserve this now. And that can be harmful. And that's what I'm noticing. The other thing I'm noticing is like, these are the questions I have for you. Why do we do this? I'm really curious, and I'm sure we could go back into history of running and go into ancient, where the hunters gatherers, and how running is natural and blah, blah, blah. And then we go into like marathons. It's such an arbitrary number, 26.2, because that's how far it was from the guy who was holding the message, carrying the message to Marathon, the city of Marathon, to share that they won the battle. And then he died at the end. And a half marathon is 13.1. It's so arbitrary. It really, really is. And we can laugh about it and kind of see the absurdity of it, these constructs that we humans create. Like the concept of a mile, like, okay, 1,600 feet or 1 kilometer is 1,000. What is it? 1,000 meters, right? Like, okay, what does that mean? It's all made up. And we're like putting so much stock into these numbers. Oh, I can do a mile in this speed, or I could do a half marathon in this time. And it's fun. It's a fun way to challenge yourselves and measure. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's so made up. It's so arbitrary. Just like the idea of calories or even macros, like especially calories, I'll say. Yeah, macros have specific molecular structures, but we're like, okay, so this activity burns this many calories and this food has these many calories. And it's so not even accurate in the terms of calories. But my point is everything's made up. Why do we do this? Why do we sign up for marathons? Why do we run 10 miles for fun or push ourselves to do fast 5Ks? Or, what is up with us humans? These are my questions that I would love to hear your thoughts on. Is it because we want to challenge ourselves? I know that there's a sense of accomplishment, like, hey, I did a marathon. I tried it. I did it. But why do we put so much stock into it as if it determines our worth or makes us better human beings or makes us stronger in some way or makes us more valuable, more successful, as a badge of honor? I'm not sure, because does anyone out there really, truly, deeply enjoy doing long runs? Like, do any of you out there like really, really love doing 2 hours of running, just for fun? I'm sure that there are some of you out there, maybe, that is, can you enjoy it without it being tied to your worth or sense of accomplishment? Or is that a part of it? I'm just curious, why do we do this? It's so popular where I live in Madison. There's a lot of races. Running is a big thing. Biking is a big thing. And I think even like in Korea, when I lived in Korea, walking was a good form. A lot of people would say, I'm going to go exercise. And by that, they meant I'm going to go for a walk. And people were more into walking than running to move. And not to say that there are not unhealthy mindsets, diet mentalities in Korea. But yeah, different cultures have different views on movement. But why do we do long runs? Why do we do marathons? Why do we do half marathons? And I just want to remind myself and remind you to remove our sense of worth from our actions. I think a lot of the times what we get when we exercise, like doing a run, we feel that sense of accomplishment. Like, wow, I did that. Wow, look at those numbers. I did that. And there's a sense of pride, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's cool. And it does make us feel satisfied. But I think it can be harmful when we start to put all or most or a big portion of our worth or sense of self into those accomplishments. We're like, I'm a runner and this is what I do and I feel so accomplished, or I need to do this in order to feel accomplished. Not just running, but in any exercise. And I personally, my conclusion is that I don't plan to do a race. Maybe my mind will change. That's a possibility, but I don't plan to do a race after this. I want to go back to my shorter runs and prioritizing more of my strength training. And yeah, it's fun once in a while, but it's not something that I want to pursue beyond the old desires of wanting to do it to feel good about myself, or to do it to earn calories, or to try to lose weight. I don't really have much interest in it. That's my full disclosure. And I want to do things that I enjoy a little bit more, like really, really enjoy, not running for 2 hours. That's not something that I currently deeply, truly enjoy. But I committed to it and I'm going to follow through, and it's been good for my relationship, good learning opportunities, good challenges for both of us. And we've been working through it. And I think that's it's definitely the biggest value that I've gotten out of this commitment with my girlfriend, is learning about each other and supporting and realizing how much I need to let go and be more gentle with myself and with others. But yes, if you want to find more freedom and joy in your movement, in your body, and learn what really works for you and what you want, not some arbitrary standard that you should hit, or if you want to practice more self-trust, more compassion, practice more of your self-worth in your movement, And even with your food, if you want to go back to enjoying exercise again and it not to be just all about weight loss, but to be about pleasure, to be about actual health for, living the life that you want to live, thinking about when you're in your 70s, when you're in your 80s, how you want to be moving, how you want to experience life in and through and with your body. And also learn about the science of exercise and how it works. And I believe so strongly that when we understand the science and what really goes on in our bodies with exercise, it makes healthy choices so easy. So easy, because it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to do this for my body. So it's not just a lovey-dovey, oh, just do whatever feels good. It's also learning about how your body actually works on the cellular level and how exercise affects you and is beneficial for you. And then you can make your own decisions to create your own movement practice. So you become the hero, your own hero of your own health and body. This is my heart. This is my passion. I love it so much. I think about it throughout the day. I love this 4-H method that I created based on all the things that I've learned, and I'm still learning. But if you'd like to join me in there and make movement something empowering, something that makes you feel so confident, away from weight loss necessarily, away from just trying to hit goals or using it as a way to feel good about yourself, but already feeling good about yourself and using it as a way to express how good you feel, then join the 4-H method. The link is in the bio. And please, please, please let me know your thoughts on this episode. I've been repeating myself a little bit more than usual today, but I feel comfortable with you, and that's what I do with people. I feel comfortable. So I like you and I love you. Can't wait to hear from you. Have a wonderful week. Hey there, me one more time, because this is my podcast. I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. If you would be so kind and generous as to leave a review, a good review, it would mean a lot to the podcast and to growing this so more people can get a hold of it. If you would like to get more support, continue listening to this podcast. Follow me on Instagram, friend me on Facebook. You can find me in the link in the show notes. Always feel free to reach out to me. An email is always welcome. Happy to hear from you. And the best way that I actually can help you is, if and when you're ready, is for you to join the 4-H method. It's my signature program, and it helps you make your body your home and your health your hero journey, transforming your health and life from the inside out. Remember, you are worthy, you are powerful. Like you, love you, Coach Michelle.